Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. On this week's episode of Coffee and Van Chats, we chat with the KOM hunter, Phil Gaimon. I met Phil Gaimon in Trexlertown, Pennsylvania, where they have these big UCI track races. If you're not super familiar with it, definitely you gotta check it out. They're like the biggest track races in America. Anyways, Phil was trying to give his shot and his crack into the Team Pursuit squad, which I was a part of at the time. And yeah, we met there and he was going to be a part of a Team Pursuit. And long story short, he did get into an accident which left him a bit high and dry and out of the Team Pursuit for the 2019 season, which then we would go on to do World Cups without him and we would not qualify for the 2020 Olympic Games, which then kind of cut the Olympic dream short for not only him, but for me as well. So I reached out to him and I thought, hey, it would be really fun to chat and just see what he's been up to and what he thought about the whole experience. And he even got to see me in probably my most vulnerable state when I slid down some wet stairs on this bridge in TTown. So there's this bridge that you have to cross over getting into the track. And I slid down the stairs with my bike on my back and I ended up shattering a disc, which you can kind of see here. So yeah, it's that was like a $2,000 accident for sure. Not a lot of fun. He was like the first one to see me and the first one to make a pretty comical joke and a lighthearted joke of just trying to get me to wash it off and get over it. And yeah, we've kind of chatted and messaged back and forth ever since. And now I got him on the podcast. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. And yeah, thanks for watching.
You're
All
catching up. Let me get coffee. This is a coffee
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, dude, do it.
Where's your van parked right now?
I am parked outside of a barbecue joint in Nashville while my wife eats with a friend, and then I'm going to eat barbecue in Nashville.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
That's how you do it.
So cool. So, all right, I'll just do the intro, and then after that, it gets less formal.
Go for it.
All right, guys, welcome back to Coffee and Van Chats. I'm here with a teammate that I had for a day. His name is Phil Gaimon, and yeah, welcome to the show, Phil. I really appreciate you taking the time and making this happen.
Always anything for a next teammate, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we were teammates for quite a while. I mean, I think you even saw me in my most vulnerable state when I slid downstairs, and I think I broke. What did I break? One disc? Not in my back, but on my bike.
On your injury that day.
Yeah. So not only did I probably slip a disc in my back, but I definitely slipped a disc on my track bike and literally tacoed the thing.
Right.
But anyways, so yeah, I mean, because we'll just get into the meat of it and the heart of it. Track cycling. I mean, I heard that you were going to do it, and the coaches were telling us that there's a possibility that Phil Gaimon's going to come to the track program and be a part of this track program, which, you know, it brings multiple things in, right? It brings a little bit of fear into the guys who are like, oh crap, there's my spot. And then it brings a little bit of excitement because it's like, hey man, now we got another teammate that can help us get there, help us actually get to the Olympics and make this thing happen.
It's we pretty much too.
Yeah.
Looking back like, oh, that would have been a mess.
Yeah. And it was a mixture of things too. It's like, you know, we hear this and it's like, we heard that you got the time standard and you were just supposed to achieve the time standard. And that was the last we heard about it. And then your video came out. So kind of give us a little breakdown on your end of like, what was going through your brain when you got the phone call from Team USA to, hey, we need you. We'd like you to be a part.
It wasn't that direct, I guess. I don't know. So my job now is like do entertaining bike stuff, which generally has been KOM attempts and like weird trips and stuff like that. But I've kind of made a point that I think like my edge and why people are interested in my YouTube is like I'm kind of the only former pro on there who's like raced in the World Tour. So I've tried to like keep my fitness as much as I can from that, which has mostly worked. And then so I still had a good 5-minute power. I hadn't raced the track. I started out racing the track. Nobody knew that because I didn't talk about it. But when I started racing in Florida, doing nothing but criteriums in college, and then we would go to TTown every summer with like Dan and Rebecca Larson, were the coaches at University of Florida. And so I kind of grew up getting my butt kicked by Bobby Lee and Mike Friedman.
Yeah, you have a medal, don't you? Like that's like in one of your books is like
collegiate. Like
okay.
Collegiate medals. So my first my first time racing the track ever was we did, it was collegiate nationals. It was my first year racing. I've been racing like 8 months, and we went to like the Atlanta Velodrome to get my Cat 4.
Wow.
Like I went up there and did that.
Yeah.
And then we did like a points race at the track, like one of their just weekend series things. And then went up to where was that race? I forget. I think it was in Chicago. Was collegiate nationals. This is forever ago.
Oh wow.
But I attacked from the gun in the points race, and I got the first. I won the first sprint, and then I got caught, attacked again, and won the second and third sprints. And I'm like leading the nationals points race, and it's my second time racing the track. And then Bobby Lee and Mike Friedman were teammates at Penn State.
Oh,
and they came out, and like so I'm like 10 seconds ahead of the field, and they went around me like I was standing still. I was like, for a minute, I was like, hey, I'm winning. And I was like, oh. And then we ended up, they're like 10 bike lengths ahead of me, so where I'm not drafting, but they just swap off and lap the field. And I lap the field just 10 bike lengths behind them the entire way.
Yeah.
And they just ate my lunch, as they should have. But it was a funny moment. Like that was my first. So from there, like I went to TTown. I think like my first 4 or 5 summers racing, like I would just be based up there. And we would just do like the local road races and then the track stuff and Friday nights. And I was never like that good at Friday night stuff. And there were enough guys there like Bobby and Mike where I was like, yeah, this is another level that I'm not at yet.
Yeah.
But I wonder what would happen if I'd stuck to it. Cause I always thought like the purest form of racing in a way, like road racing, there's just so much boring bullshit and so much tactics where like points race, like, oh, you give the brake too much of a leash and that guy just lapped you. It's a whole different thing now.
Oh, for sure. And
so I was always like interested in getting back into it.
Well, that time that you were in, I mean, if anybody got screwed, I would say it would be Bobby Lee. Like in the sense of like, there was no program. He retires, right. And now it's like, oh, we have a team pursuit program. We have an endurance program, and we're going to go to all these World Cups. Because, I mean, back then, because I started racing around when Bobby Lee was getting ready for, I guess, Rio. And he had just finished London. And yeah, there was no program. I mean, there were probably times that he paid to go to his own World Cups.
I believe it, yeah.
That wasn't a thing that we even did.
Yeah. Also, like, when I was, like, even if I was, like, in the pool of good enough, you know, I got an offer from Jelly Belly when I was 23 for $2,000 for the year. And, like, no one was offering me anything to race a track, you know, and that was never going to happen. Like, at that point, there might have been 2 guys in the U.S., like, getting paid anything to race track. It just, like, wasn't a thing professionally. So, see, I went to road, but always kind of liked it. So when I'm, like, being a geek YouTuber and USA Cycling says, hey, like, we're looking for some help for the team pursuit. Do you want to do a test? My thing was like, sure, I'll do a test. My last pursuit was actually at Elite Nationals at the Velodrome in LA. And it was, I think I did like a 450. Yeah. Like it wasn't good, but I was 22 and, you know, and I didn't have any of the technique. I didn't know what I was doing, but of course I still don't 10 years later.
Yeah.
So I went back in. I was like, yeah, this will be a funny one video where like I try to qualify for the Olympics, and I do a 455, and that was what I thought would happen. So I was like, yeah, we'll get my camera guy to come down here. It'll be like a funny perspective of whatever, but I'm gonna give it my best. So I trained for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I did some intervals like on my road bike, and I think like that effort specifically because there's not that much technique in individual pursuit. Like I was on the way there, I was like asking Colby Pierce. I called him. I'm like, got any tips for this?
Yeah, I think just so much has changed over the last few years. So like back then, like guys would ride the smallest gears possible, and because like leg speed. And now guys are riding the biggest gear possible, but we're going so fast that there actually is a line to ride, especially at LA. You kind of have to like drift up to the red and dive in the corners. Right. And that's what makes it like super smooth. But everybody back then was like black line, peg the black line. Like whatever you do, just peg it.
See, I didn't even know about the red line.
Yeah. So that's
I
called
was
the
just
water.
trying to stay as low as I could. I was just fight it the whole way.
Yeah, and so there's probably a few seconds right there, because then your file just kind of like looks like a little couple mountains for like it's like 32 intervals or whatever it is, 16.
Right. No, I did. Colby did tell me like float the turn and then accelerate out of it.
Yeah,
just like crazy, all those stuff. But there was also Colby's also smart enough to know that like I'm not going to absorb more than 3 things on the way to the velodrome for a set.
No, that makes
like,
sense.
I'm not going to give Phil like if he gives me too much information, I'll just lose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up like, I borrowed a bike. Like I had all the right stuff for whatever it is.
For sure.
But I think like specifically like a VO2 effort, a 5-minute effort is something that, like, even if you're not like, I'm going to do about as good as I ever could have with an effort like that. That's just sort of in you or it's not. So without the training, with the training, I'm not sure how much better I would have been. But then it was like, okay, if I did 4:30, like that's worth looking into for the summer.
No, for sure. I think you would have shocked yourself. I mean, because really, like when I watched the video and when some of us others watched the video, it was really just the line. Like if the line got dialed, that was probably 5 seconds, in my opinion, just because of how much time, which is kind of cool to think about.
It's not.
But it's there. It's there.
It's still there. Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely right.
And I mean, because like it can happen. You never know. But anyways, so moving on. So yeah, you tried the track, you tested out the track, you really got screwed with health insurance. And I'm not even going to get into that because like the last thing you probably want to even talk about is that. And, but let's chat about Everesting, man. Like,
well, I want to chat. Hang on. I want to get into the Olympic stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, I want to hear what I missed.
Oh, what you missed?
I was just hoping to like go on, do a bunch of World Cups with you guys and like learn shit. You know what I mean? Like that was my goal, was like squeeze in there. This is when
the podcast almost flips and I get sort of interviewed. Yeah.
It's going to get cathartic, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you honestly didn't miss much, man. I mean, without throwing a lot of people under the bus and just my opinions, we didn't make it, man. We were a good team and we were friends. And, I have more respect for Ashton Lambie than probably, I would say anybody else that I could have respect for. Because that guy, like, I mean, it's not that he just was good at cycling. Like, he was good at listening. And you, in any pro would know this, but part of the reason why you became pro, right, is because you went to somebody, you asked them a question, and you either took it in and absorbed it, or you threw it away. It's kind of like learning how to race crits, right? So when you're learning how to race crits, there's that like method of, hey, how do we ride this? How do we do this? How do we do that? And Ashton took every opportunity that he was given, all the way to Europe, riding with some of the best pursuiters in the world, to literally learn how to ride a pursuit past 5-minute power, past 4-minute power. It was, how do I ride the line? How do I put my head under my elbows? Like, just crazy positioning. How do I produce power while putting out that position? And I think a little bit of it was hard for us to absorb it. Like, we just weren't latching on as quick as he did. And so that was part of it, in my opinion. Another part of it is I felt like we were all in different parts of our training, right? So people would be coming off of these big road blocks, and then they would go to these European track blocks, and specifically what track efforts would be good for me probably weren't good for another. And it was such a uniform program that I think it kind of burnt some of us out. And you really didn't have much say in that. Whereas, like, I don't know how the road works, but like if we were doing a team pursuit workout, it was the team pursuit workout for that specific day. Whereas I might need to work on my starts and somebody else might need to work on their 2Ks. We were all doing flying 4Ks, or we were all doing this, or we were all doing.
It would make sense if, like, the problem is, like, for something as like qualifying for the Olympics and something as high level as the Olympics, like, you all need to be together every day for a year going into it. And that's what you're up against with all the other teams.
Yeah.
So, like, the balance of figuring that out would be totally impossible.
Yeah, and it wasn't only that, though, too. It's like we went through a multitude of coaches who then had to relearn us as individuals. And, every time you go through a new coach or somebody that's a new hire or somebody that's just new to the program, their instant response is like, oh, we need new people. We need young people, or we need different people. And instead of just working with what we had And then we'd get to a point and it would just be like, what now? I don't know if you guys can hear that train. I'm sitting outside of a train.
It makes up for my girlfriend texting me because she forgot the garage code.
No stress. Yeah. But yeah, so it just felt like all over the place. Like there was never, like if once we got settled in one spot, something else was going wrong in another, or it had to start over. We had to start over.
So much of it too is like looking back on my career in racing, like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Is like I've got a buddy here who I train with a lot who like he's a legit Cat 1, but he started a little bit later, and then just like every year there's an injury, a broken bone, like a pandemic.
Yeah.
There's just something, and he's like, one of the things he said is like, I just wish I could get like a clean shot at one season. And I'm looking back and I was like, I never got that.
Yeah.
Like I did it for 10 years full time. And like, at no point did I get the progression that I planned that I wanted for that. Like there wasn't some bullshit. Like everything's going great. Oh, my dad died.
Yeah. It gets, and it's things like that. Like, and I mean, that honestly, things like that were happening where it was like, everybody was in full panic of like, well, we're not going to the World Cups that we wanted to go to. Like, they would only send us to certain World Cups. And the way the point system works, that's just like kind of a pain in the ass, is the fact that you essentially are only given whatever. So the way the point system works is you score a certain amount of points in one World Cup per result. So you have to cherry pick these World Cups, right? So there's like 3 count from one season and 3 count from another season.
Okay.
And so when that's happening, we need to make sure that we're going to the right World Cups. And a lot of the riders were like, hey, going to the first 2 European World Cups is probably not the best of idea. Because, right, you would go to the first 2, make sure you get your best. Like if you're the best in the country, you go to the first 2. So that way you can rest and train through, or just train through and go all the way into Worlds and then score the most points at Worlds. Okay. Whereas we needed every point that we could possibly get, whereas some of the best countries, they were gonna get the points no matter what. So they wanted to make sure they were peaking at Worlds. Like we weren't gonna win Worlds. Yeah, like we just needed to be 8th in the world. And yeah,
I remember sitting at home like in October. I think it was like my cookie fondo's going on, and I'm looking at your Instagram, and you're in Belarus, and I'm like, "Woo, that would have been a long summer for me."
Yeah, and that's another thing I think that like people don't understand is that it gets long, right? So like you go. Yeah, so like the way the projection, in my opinion, was really messed up is the sense of we go to TTown, right? You have to be in TTown, right, to get selected for Pan Am Games. Sure. So you get selected for Pan Am Games, you have to be at all those camps to potentially get selected for Pan Am Championships, which is 3 weeks later. Right. Which then you have 6 weeks from like the end of August to September before Belarus and Glasgow, right? Yeah. And so you have to be good at everything, and so you're essentially you're peaking from June all the way. And I forgot to even insert nationals in there. That's like nationals was in August somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so
but the depth that you need, it's weird because like it's fast twitch, which like fast twitch folks is not endurance. Yeah. But like the depth that you need to repeat that becomes endurance. And if there's one takeaway that I had from the pro years, it's just like I would do like 60, 80 race days in a year. And I could always like, I could be 90% in all those, but if you wanted me to be 100, I remember like being in 2015 when I was on Optum and I'm back in the US, I was like to Jonas Carney directly, I was like, Jonas, leave me alone for a month and I'll win Redlands. Yeah. Like, don't make me go this, just like, let me go to Big Bear and train because I know how to do it. But like, if you actually, it's like some guys, I guess, race into shape and they need that. But I think like, if you know how to train, my big takeaway from not racing anymore is like, it's so much easier to be good. If I do 12 videos a year, essentially all I need to peak for is like once a month to be fast. And like my numbers can be better than ever once a month. Yeah. You try and tell me to do that for like a week. And the, World Tour, we do like 7 days on, 2 weeks off, repeat. And that's just, no one can do that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too, it's like, you don't really realize how much fitness you lose at these World Cups. So you said you were at the Cookie Fondo. Well, I was freezing my ass off in Belarus. Like the only riding I could get in was on a trainer. So then we're stuck in there, no vitamin D, and just like you're in Europe, cold Europe, and on an ergo. And then you go inside of a track to then race in a cold track. So it was just like, it was and you're there for like 3 or 4 weeks.
No, and you throw in like a bunch of bad hotel food and lights, so you're gonna get sick once. Like,
and oily. It's just so much oil, man. It's like oily meats, oily potatoes, vegetables. It was just really just.
All right, so the cookie fondue was a better call than Belarus.
100%.
What I'm hearing.
Belarus was cool. I spent, I think, 5 hours in customs trying to get my cask helmets out of customs.
Okay.
Which I tried filming, but there was like a borderline. There was like a chance I was about to go to jail.
I've been there in some spots. Yeah.
And so I was just like, it's not even worth it. But that's a comical story for another.
I always keister my helmet when I travel. Always.
Well, so I had just started working with cask, and they were like, like we're in Italy. We'll just pop them right over to Belarus. And I was like, I can already see this going south. And so it did very quickly. And so, but yeah, you didn't miss out on much.
Sure. Well, we all missed out on the Olympics, so there's that.
We did all miss out on that. That was pretty heavy. There's still, Gavin still has a really good shot for the Omnium, Holloway, and Hedge for the Madison, which is really exciting to see. And I think that was the coolest part and the coolest takeaway is just like we were all there. None of us were Olympians. We all wanted to be Olympians. We were in different parts of our life too, where it was like, guys know that they're retiring in, 2020. And then other guys are like, this is the start. This is where I can go to 2024 and be the star, you know? And so we all had the same dream and the same wishes. And so we kind of all missed out on it together. It didn't make it really any easier, but it definitely makes it a little bit more comforting, You're just in the boat and people know what you're going through,
Yeah, totally.
Whereas like I can see not getting a road contract or something along those lines. People know what you're going through, but it's not everybody like at once is happening.
Together,
Some
guys, it'd be funny being in a room with like somebody, has a 3-year deal for 1.2 million. And I'm like, I hope they re-sign me at 65,000. I really do.
Yeah.
And that would really change my life.
Well, yeah. And that's like the difference in our kind of vibe. Cause I don't think any of us were Continental. I guess they were the first year. Is Elevate Continental? That's not Continental.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Eric and Gavin were pro last year.
Yeah. So just a few of us, but like literally all we talked about is like, how do we get health insurance? Like, what result do we need to produce where we can get health insurance? And that's what we were we weren't even worried about the salary. We were just chasing health insurance,
right?
But yeah, so yeah, like I said, man, you didn't miss out on much. You definitely probably could have been there though, for sure. Because my thing is, it's like it's just the line, man.
Well, we got 4 more years,
4 more years.
I don't know what the heck I'm doing next. So.
I was about to say, if anybody's really good at retaring, you're probably the first one. You're probably the best.
Well, the thing is, once you're retired, they leave you alone, and you can do what you want.
Yeah.
And you can do what you're good at, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't get to focus until I stopped racing.
How many pro offers have you gotten offered? Like pro contract offers have you gotten? Since you've been retired?
Not a lot.
Not really.
It was. Like a couple talked to me. There was only one like actual offer, but it was just the thing is like as soon as I stopped, I was just so much better off that it just I was happier. I'm living at home.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with like being away from all the bullshit of the pro teams was just like such a gift.
Yeah.
That there wasn't an amount that they could really pay me, and I was sort of able to. I also sort of learned like how much the middlemen take when you're a pro. And how like removing that I was able to make more money very quickly, which isn't much to say when you're making minimum on a world tour team. But once I was able to like, there's just no one want to pay me what I would want to do that to go crash Belgium again. But yeah, that wasn't a conversation. No, and I was just I tried to burn the bridges as fast as I could. So like you write a book and you make fun of everyone and then they don't call you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I think it's funny like seeing all these privateers pop up in the gravel scene and And I mean, they're killing it. I mean, I'm doing it. Like, that's literally what I'm doing right now is
I think that's
privateering.
a symptom of just like the system itself wasn't serving the
Yeah.
sponsors and it wasn't serving the riders, and there was just a lot of fat to like kind of accidentally be trimmed where I don't know exactly like what Pete was coming from or what his options were, Stetna, but he's on Trek. It's a hard life. He's doing grand tours. Like, he's at a really high level, and they're probably paying him garbage, and he could sort of look at like, well, okay, there's I can add up 3 sponsors and do 6 race days and live at home with my wife. And why would I go do this other mess like that I've done for a few years?
Yeah. And I think it's also even awesome that like you can pick your like sponsors. Like, if you don't want to work with said company, you don't have to work with said company. I can't tell you how many times, like, and I bet you could say the same thing. It's like getting sunglasses or just something that you're just like, this doesn't even work. I don't even like this. Like,
Right.
why am I representing this?
It ends up being both, because it's like, when the sponsors are like forced upon you by a team, like that's tough. And then like your job is to say something that like maybe you don't believe. Like we had a couple stuff. I had sponsors over the years with like whatever teams. Like, I'm just not going to talk about this. Like when we were on Garmin Sharp, they came out with like the Vector pedals. Yeah. And they just didn't work. They didn't work. The power meters, like it's just, and the pedals themselves were like the bearings were crunchy. It was just like we were kind of being tested, but they were already selling it. And I was like, I'd feel gross like promoting this. So I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm not going to say I hate it, but I'm just going to ride it. But then the same thing kind of happens like when you're, it's not like there's sponsors knocking down my door to sponsor YouTube. So you end up like figuring out like, okay, this is something I like about this. Like, I've certainly had to make compromises I didn't like. And now like what am I, year 4 of retirement? Like, now all my shit's nice. But before it was like, I was testing these robot sunglasses one year. I had like a digital.
We got those. They wanted us to ride Team Pursuit with those.
Yeah, they're out of business, right? Can we talk bad about
it? They are out of business. They do no longer work. Yeah,
the thing is, like, I like the idea. It's cool. I was like interested in the product as a concept, and then like it just kept crashing and freezing my phone. It didn't work. I think the only thing that worked well was the speakers. Yeah, you could listen to music pretty good in them. Yeah. But it was just like at some point, like I'd be riding and it would just get in this infinite loop of like, I'm connected, I'm disconnected, I'm connected, I'm disconnected. And I'm like trying to throw them into PCH, like into the highway, into the water. And I remember like they couldn't get it to work, or I couldn't get it to work. And they kept saying it was user error because the guy's like, well, it works for me. And then they actually flew an engineer from London to my house in LA to like show me it was user error and show me how to use it. And he didn't make it a block down before it froze up on him. Like, I handed him my phone, I handed him the sunglasses. I was like, here, I did all the updates, I did all the things. And he made it around the corner. And I was like, I've never been so happy for something to fail.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, I told you, it doesn't work, man. Like, I'm not going to tweet this coupon code. People are going to hate me if they buy this. Yeah. So I'm just going to like, my message is I am wearing this, and that's all I could do. Yeah, I don't know. That got cathartic. Yeah, it's weird out there. It's been a fun learning experience, like figuring out like how to make a sponsor deal. What am I worth to sponsors? Like, how can I do it? Because you don't want to just take as much. You don't want to like take all their money and not, they don't want to come back the next year, and it doesn't look good to switch. And what's a brand that like fits with me? So you look at like, so Factor is my bike sponsor this year, and I was looking like, okay, they have a World Tour team, or they've had a World Tour team for a while. They don't have, anyone in North America doing like road ambassador stuff. So you sort of see like, okay, what's a brand that I should target that I can kind of convince is worth something to me? Whereas like, Cannondale has Ted King, like they're probably not the best fit for me to move forward. For sure. Yeah. So it's been an interesting like business experience too.
Yeah. Cause you've like literally grown this from the ground up, and like, did it start with just you making those videos, and now it seems like you have a freaking production team? Like, I mean,
it's good to know that I'm faking it well. No, so I guess the genesis of like my YouTube thing was I was supposed to get a job when I stopped racing. Like, I had a job kind of lined up in LA from like my former agent, basically. And that was part of what gave me the courage to just retire. I was like, okay, I have a good job lined up. This is going to be nice. And then I started playing around on Strava, and my Strava following blew up because I was getting KOMs from like a local doper, and it was just like a funny story. And I was bored for 4 months, so I just kept doing it. And then it got enough attention that a couple brands were sort of like, hey, we want to sponsor you. And I was like, I don't even know what you can sponsor here, like me going for KOM. So I decided to make a YouTube video or a YouTube channel out of it. And Castelli had just hired a camera guy who I'd worked with in the past. He'd done all of Powers Behind the Barrier stuff. His name's Sam Smith.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if Sam will like make my videos, then I'll do this. And then since then I learned like how to film some stuff myself, and I wanted more than Castelli could sort of give me with Sam. So I started hiring local camera dudes, or just like selfie stick and making it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So and that's just pretty much blossomed not only into KOMs now, but like, I mean, you talk next to toilet paper rolls, you give training tips.
Yeah, it's just like part of it too is responding to what people want and what they ask for, and like YouTube will give that to you, and that's kind of something like I guess I learned as a racer too. That was the KOM thing started. It was like I think the first post I ever got that got more than 1,000 likes was like a screenshot of my KOM with that doper guy in second.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if everyone likes that, I'll do more of that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like you just sort of follow that into whatever the heck.
Yeah. Well, as a viewer, I'm still going to go ahead and say it that I think you should definitely create a page targeting towards all the trolls that have come through you guys. So anybody that's looking to create a meme page, I want you to find all the trolls that comment on Phil Gaimon's stuff and yeah, just pretty much post it, because I love reading it. I think it's great. I think I love to hear his responses to those. They're quite worth the read.
YouTube is such a weird place, man.
It is a weird environment, like, because I just started posting on the platform, and I'm kind of embarrassed to even say it because, like, in comparison to you know, but like I just started posting on the platform, and it's like it's almost as if people literally watch videos to only comment and critique. Like in some regard, it's like, hey man, that sounds kind of breathy in that one sentence that you had. You should probably redo it. And it's like, dude, are you?
Yeah. They part of it is it's a good and a bad, because they tell you what you want or what they want, which means if you provide it, they're happy with it. Yeah. But they also like think that they're directing your stuff and telling you who you are.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of it. Like they're just children sometimes. I've learned, like, just look at the analytics. It's like, oh, that was a 12-year-old.
And sometimes,
but sometimes
they're grown men. Yeah.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. I've gotten videos where like I post a video and it's been up for 45 seconds and it's an 11-minute video, and the comment will be like, "That was awesome, Phil. Thank you." It's just like, there's no way that you watched it. There's no way that you even saw it.
It was amazing. The intro was perfect.
Yeah, they're just like, I don't know. They're happy it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So that makes overwhelmingly, like, people are like, it's easy to, whatever our psychology is, like, we look at the comments and the negativity is like what you remember, but there's far more positive, and generally, like, people are happy to get free entertainment or education. So yeah, keep it going.
So yeah, and this is something that you're probably just going to keep too until people just get bored and tired of you, right? Or if YouTube just kicks you off.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I just respond to whatever exists. Right now, it's working and it's fun. So.
Because not only are you bigger on YouTube, but you have a bigger van than I do. So like,
I don't have a van anymore.
What?
No.
We'll not talk about that right now. So.
No, Grant crashed my van.
Grant
no, he didn't crash it. He didn't crash it.
Okay.
No, it was a sponsor. I had a van sponsor last year for that trip, and then I crashed myself. And I mean, I crashed my body, and then I just flew home, and the van was parked in the TTown parking lot. So I paid Grant to drive it back for me. That's awesome. Then and he like scratched up the side of it. They didn't care, but it was funny. Yeah. And then he felt really bad, and I was like, "Don't worry about it." And then I've not owned a van. I've just borrowed. I got nowhere to park a van in LA.
Oh, so the Van Do It thing was just like.
That was a sponsor for this year too. Yeah, they were trying to sponsor. Every time I do a van trip, something horrible happens. This year it was a pandemic. Last year it was just for me.
So you're saying Van Do It helped cause the pandemic, or is that
no? It was my fault, not them. It was entirely yeah,
right on.
Not vanning anymore.
So post pandemic, like, do you have any plans of traveling or doing any trips? I saw the post that you're looking for somebody. Was it Mayfield, North Carolina?
Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about. I deleted that because that's. I want to keep my stuff a secret as much as I know.
Secret as possible.
Yeah. So now I'm on this Everesting kick. I go from a pursuit, a 4.5 minute effort, an 8-hour effort
Yeah.
because I can't focus on anything.
Well, it has to
But
be less than 8 hours, so that's good, right?
yeah, it's true. Yeah, now it's 7.5. The damn thing.
Yeah.
But part of it is like, well, I think honestly, like a lot of it is just finding the right hill to make this work.
Yeah.
So I took the record on what I thought was a good hill. That like it was the best hill in LA, given that I can't travel.
Yeah.
So I found something that was like pretty good for the whole effort, and it was enough to break the previous record by 40 minutes. But then you get like a world-class mountain biker with a slightly better hill, but he's at altitude, so I'm not sure how much better it was. Whatever it was, he went faster than me. So the only way for me to beat him, I think, is to find an even better hill than Keegan had. So I'm on a nationwide, possibly worldwide quest for where that hill is. And until I find it, I got to keep it on the DL. But I have the podium, you know?
Yeah, which is what I love about you. It's like, it's almost like you're the kind of guy that's like, somebody does it and you're like, okay, that's perfect. I'm just going to go out of the world and I'm going to find a way to do it and make it that much better. Like, I love that, because it's like you could easily be like, all right, I had it at one point. I'm done. I'll never do that again. Cool. If you want that record.
The fun thing about it too is like if you lose, you're more real, you know?
Yeah.
So like I've always had that going for me. I was good at like I almost won nationals one year. Like I remember I got more followers from like almost winning nationals than from actually winning Redlands.
That was an epic ride.
It was like, that's the thing. It was like epic. It was just like a heartbreaking whatever. Yeah. But I remember just like, you know, like the world sees you put yourself out there and be vulnerable and try, and even if it's impossible. Yeah. So whether I can get the record or not, like I've got to go down swinging. And I'm more than happy to like make another video where I lose it or don't. For sure. But I've got to put in the work.
So do you think it would be faster at altitude? Like, I mean, because like the air is thinner and you're not. Yeah, like I'm just thinking like you would run out of oxygen, but at the same time, are you dipping so far deep? Does it balance itself out?
It is a question, yeah, because you're not going as hard at altitude because you can't, and then going downhill, you're going to be faster because there's less air. I just assume no. I assume that sea level is better for that. So that's sort of what I'm looking for is a more sea level. Basically, what I wanted is like the length of Keegan's Hill, but 4,000 feet lower. So I'm kind of close to that in my nationwide search. Yeah. But yeah, it's possible. Like that's part of the fun thing is like there isn't enough Everesting information out there for anyone to really know what's ideal and what's not. And it's definitely like I remember doing like Tour of Colorado and we're racing up at 10,000 feet for 3 days, just in somewhere like Avon or whatever. And like just sitting in the pack, you're going 40 miles an hour because there's no damn air up there to slow you down. Like it is. Yeah. I mean, you know about altitude for track stuff. Like it is faster, but probably not on like an 11% climb would be my guess.
Well, like I rode a 430 LA and then like a couple weeks later did a 417 in Bolivia. So I took 15 seconds off, and I don't know how much better I got over those course of 3 weeks. But
that's a good taper, you know.
Yeah. You know, you never know. But so that's kind of what had me thinking, because like I've also done group rides out in Colorado where like we're averaging 30 miles an hour for like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel that hard, but yet if I come home to like South Carolina, Asheville area or North Carolina, that ain't happening. Like we're not doing 30 miles an hour.
Right.
Soon, so.
No, but I assume for like an altitude, also like for tempo, altitude doesn't kill you, but for like a high, I mean, I don't know. I guess if pursuits are faster at altitude, I generally think like the air resistance isn't a factor or not much of a factor when you're going on up 11% grade.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that Keegan would go faster at sea level than he did. So that's what I'm looking for too, is like I'm not so much trying to beat Keegan. I'm worried about like the next World Tour guy that goes for it. Like I want to set a time that stands a little bit longer.
Yeah, because it almost seems like they haven't gotten bored enough yet. That or they haven't beaten it. Because like I feel like everybody, like all of us have gotten like super bored, and it's like, oh yeah, everybody's Everesting. Like I'm shocked I haven't even attempted it yet. At least virtual, right?
You don't have
yeah, that'd be perfect. Just ride up the banking as much as possible.
Do it.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, so I guess the World Tour guys just haven't gotten bored enough yet to just I'm going to Everest.
And the thing is, like, it is an effort that's like it is 2 notches more annoying than any World Tour training ride would ever be.
Yeah.
So like it's just hard enough that you really have to want to do it. But And like, yeah, it is interesting that, I mean, I've just been watching the World Tour teams like try to figure out like, and this is something I learned, like, okay, no longer, like if I have sponsors, if I'm trying to create value for them, racing isn't an option. Like, what is there? What can I figure out? And the answer was like content and YouTube and like adventures, stuff like that. And like seeing the teams like try to pivot to that and figure that out in the short term has been interesting. And generally, like, they're not doing that great of a job.
Yeah.
But it's fun to watch them. Like EF like finally did a couple, like Lachlan did this crazy mountain bike trail record the other day. So they're all figuring it out, but I think most of them are just like kind of waiting for racing to come back and praying their sponsors keep paying them, which is hard to watch.
Yeah, it's very scary because I mean I've already heard horror stories of some of these riders that have had their salaries cut pretty heavy. I can say that I'm super lucky with what sponsors and little financial support I have that, you know, I'm pretty much taken care of, but it is scary and sad to see what's going on. Wow, I just lost a ton of light. Oh, it's raining, so my thing got shut, which is perfect because I can just take these heat shields down. Heat shields. Thank you, Contrabands.
There's a beautiful simplicity to van life. There really is.
It's great.
Like I remember coming back to my house here and being like, well, I don't need any of this shit. You know, I just lived in a van at 50 square feet. You know, like it's nice to have a bigger kitchen and a bathroom, but for the most part, it's I think it's good to live in a van for a little bit because you'll never want like a big house.
Yeah, and I think when you're trying to like get used to the van life, it's just like it's super hard to. Sorry, I'm trying to turn a light on. It's like super hard to like more or less like you have to put like if a fork is out, if a fork is displaced, your entire house is messed up at this point.
Yep.
You know, your van is literally flipped upside down. So like. Mm-hmm. Everything's stacked in the right way. And like when I was setting up for this podcast, I was like, crap, my mic is like under 8 bags and everything else, you know, and it gets kind of nuts. But anyways, but yeah, I don't want to keep you too long and I really appreciate your time. And now that I've taken everything down, I'm just going to go ahead and start to head that way. But yeah, if you know, just to end the conversation, just to give one tip to like, cause like we said previously, you know, like I looked up to you, you know, watching you come up and I bought the book when I was a Cat 4 cyclist living on $10 a day. Cause I was living on $10. I got evicted at that point and I was living outside of a buddy's house for 2 weeks until school could end. He didn't have room for me to live in there. And so I was reading that book and it was really motivational to kind of keep me in the cycling world because it would have been really easy to sell my bike and maybe pay rent. But instead I decided to keep my bike, and which I'm super happy I did. But if you're just giving a tip to a cyclist that's like, they want to get into the pro life or even just want to get into what you're doing, like content, privateer, what's like a tip that you would give?
I think you just have to start doing it and keep doing it. And I guess patience is a lot of the same with training. People are like, oh, how can I get fast? It's like, well, you know, they're like, how long did you train for this Everesting record? I'm like, well, that depends on when you start.
Yeah. Because
you could say like 2008 is when I started training for this. Sure. Or you could say like 3 weeks ago is when I started doing like 8-hour rides. And so no one knows. So I would say like with all that stuff, just be patient and keep working at it. And like, no, it's just not going to come fast. A lot of what's funny about cycling is like because it's so hard to pay rent, like the people who don't want it that much just stop.
Yeah.
So like you wanted it that bad, and that's why you're in a van now, and you got a bunch of national championships, and other guys like they might have wanted it bad enough to do the workouts and go suffer, but like not bad enough to like make their life work around it. So give yourself that credit, and I think that's
the most expensive jersey I've ever bought, which I think you understand.
Yep, so, I know about that.
Yeah. So, but anyways, well, thanks, Phil. Thank you so much for your time again. I really appreciate it, man. And
yeah, enjoy your barbecue.
Will do. Thanks, man.
Peace, buddy.